Jesus.
All right, it is currently,
Every opinion
just want you to show
is
you
not going
the
to be
engineered light. It's
supernatural
5:06
download
p.m.
into your spirit.
And the entity,
We
I want
have
to
to
be
be
clear about the demonic. This is as impossible as the light activity that you saw appear on my ceiling as LAPD flew over my apartment yesterday morning. Today is currently April 14th, 2024. I want you to see the light source. All right, because I'm going to show you, I'm going to remind you about where the light source is at the same time. This is entirely demonic. This is documentation of ongoing terrorism. That's a demon that's crossing path on foot in the specific environment. That's why all of the people of the state are going to be subject to a federal prosecution. They're engaging, understand he's engaging in terrorism. The entity's aiming impossible light inside of my apartment while crossing path on Alvarado, crossing path at the neighboring venue adjacent. They're both monitoring. That's what group stalking looks like. And they're doing it on behalf of the LAPD who's engaged in state surveillance. That's why all 59 units here are going to federal prison. This is a property that's filled with third-party group stalkers engaged in 24-hour criminal surveillance, and the entity engages in terrorism by stalking in helicopters. That's what the Los Angeles Police Department are doing while they're outwardly exhibiting demon possession. And you are also being subject to terrorism while the entity aims impossible light inside of your apartment through closed blinds, magnification of light, while you see it, for example, yesterday morning appearing on the ceiling, while the entity is engaged in ongoing criminal surveillance, appearing inside of the private space in an entirely impossible manner. Understand that's documentation of what is terrorism. The state's going to be prosecuted for that. Okay, there is no warrant, no probable cause. By the way, there is no lawful basis for the government to ever engage in criminal monitoring, federal group stalking and monitoring. There is no lawful basis that the government can engage in it at all. Okay, so I'm referencing legal basis upon which law enforcement agencies that are not entirely delegitimized by placing you criminally under surveillance, by the way, but you're referencing what is the ordinary Fourth Amendment constitutional basis, warrant, probable cause, right? I'm referencing that because these are the constitutional bounds upon which law enforcement agencies, the executive branch, in other words, can engage in this criminal system. It doesn't exist for federal group stalking and monitoring, though. While you're identifying, establishing the prima facie case of federal group stalking and monitoring, which is the maintenance of that specific environment, the light source, and the engineered light, you are doing so outside of the entirely outside of the bounds of any constitutional grounds. While the entity has engaged in what is a provision of a body of evidence of capturing the impossible environment, I want you to remember, and I will upload video documentation because I can fit it today. And I want to give a special shout out to this light activity because I want you to understand the ways upon which the people of the state are going to be subject to federal prosecution and federal prison, and also the entity that is engaged in the system of surveillance using helicopters. That's why they're going to federal prison, because they engaged in such a psychotic and malicious and outrageous method of stalking an American citizen using helicopters. I want you to see this engineer light that's all over the bed. And it is currently, by the way, 5:09 p.m. We are, it is daylight savings time. It's April 14th, 2024. And so I'm going to give you a few videos. For example, the entity is maintaining the light source. I'll just give you one. I'm at the Fontana Chamber of Commerce, and I'm standing in front of that Fontana Chamber of Commerce at 5:02 p.m. There will never be, and that's just understanding the juxtaposition. This is how you're going to be prosecuted. I want to be clear. While I'm in Southern California, this is a prosecution of the entire state of California. While in Northern California, there is a light source over the people of the state in an entirely different location in California. It's not the natural environment. The state of California is placing American citizens under surveillance, and they engage in what is the demonic imitation of the natural environment. And it is a scientific impossibility. And all I did was document it for you and the rest of the world to be able to identify, first of all, a demon-possessed population who surround in that specific environment. And they are not exercising any religious rights. They are unlawfully invading the constitutional and human rights of another in concert with a corrupt government. And they're doing it, I want to be clear, with regard to what is criminal surveillance, and it shall result in federal prison. All 59 units are going to be prosecuted with the maintenance of this environment inside. They're going to be prosecuted as sex offenders, and this is prosecution of what is terrorism. And then you're also understanding what is impunity. This is an unnatural environment. This is real-time control of the environment by the demonic that's listening to every word. You know this by the appearance of impossible light that appears on the ceiling while the police are flying over in a helicopter. This is the operation of the demonic, okay? The light source that's over the Fontana Chamber of Commerce is not over the apartment of 1806 North Alvarado Street in Los Angeles, California. And this is the entity that is engaged in ongoing criminal surveillance. It's not just occurring right now because the entity decided to communicate a threat. This is what LAPD is doing. They're engaged in 24-hour surveillance by helicopter. They like to communicate a threat to be heard stalking you in helicopter. The entity is engaged in 24-hour demonic terrorism and surveillance in concert with the people, aware of the fact that they're also being documented choosing at this moment to provide more documentation that the world is going to witness and understand the very reality of Satan and the vessels that Satan uses. Satan uses people, and they don't have to look like freak weirdos with bad wigs that are speaking gibberish. They're the people that are all around you that want to in every way appear normal, and they are entirely not. Okay, they're dangerous psychopaths that are focused on you. You can know them by their behavior. You can know them by the environment that they're in, and you understand the significance of the behavior that they're engaging in that specific environment. And you also know the criminal activity that they're, inextricably linked to. That's POC, all right? And I want to be clear, that systematic engagement is attributed to those who are living at the crime scene. They're all going to federal prison. The entity is maintaining criminal presence so that demons like that can seamlessly engage in what is an ongoing sex offense and terrorism, all right? That's the same for the people of the state living adjacent to the property under a light source. That's not at the Fontana Chamber of Commerce. That's light activity, relevant positioning, and that's a demon that knows everything that I'm saying, okay? Not just the sloppy third party with with a huge belly that wants to appear disinterested in the target individual. They know exactly what I'm saying. You know that by the light activity that appears on the ceiling. You know that by the light activity that flashes across the wall while I happen to be talking about impossible light activity. Reference the documentation. You remember all of the facts. Okay, all of the facts remain real. You're looking at the forest, not the tree. There is no explanation for this at any time of the year under any circumstances. The entity is documented being present at 7 o'clock in the morning. This is documented impunity while the people of the state are continuously engaging in the crime while it's being documented. Okay, it is currently 5:13 p.m. This is documentation of federal group stalking monitoring. This is, again, evidence of what is the ceaseless pattern of conduct. The people of the state remain in relevant position at Alvarado Gardens. And I just want you to look at the documentation because this is going for what is ongoing terrorism. This is a sex offense. The entity starts flashing impossible light through closed blinds in my living room while I am inside of my living room. All 59 units, all 59 of them are filled with third-party group stalkers here at Alvarado Gardens, and they're all going to federal prison. Okay, this is Alvarado Gardens, located at 1800 through 1818 North Alvarado Street. And I'm going to provide additional video documentation relevant to what is daylight savings time, even though understand and in the federal prosecution, in federal court, and ordinarily, because I've established what is the foundation, the demonic imitation of the natural environment. The specific environment, in other words, it's not based on the operation of the natural environment. So daylight savings time is not relevant. Where you have the documentation of the light source rising and setting at one address, daylight savings time is relevant to the natural environment. It does not apply. For purposes of keeping my evidence, which is establishing precedent and what's going on in this country, I will conform to those rules, okay? Because I have so much evidence. Okay, but I want to be clear, it's not in any way restricting the use of the body of evidence that I have. I can literally pick any day, any year. The entity is maintaining an unnatural environment because I have been subject to state surveillance by the government, who is practicing a demonic and ritualistic targeting system in concert with the people of the state. And those that have been documented, I mean, from the outset, stalking with these police departments, they're going to federal prison. As I was documenting them on the freeway, and the entity was acting in concert, just like LAPD is doing with the people here. Every single last one of them that I have documented acting with these corrupt law enforcement agencies, they're going to federal prison. There is no statute of limitations, by the way, for the government that's been keeping you under surveillance. That's not how that's going to work either, okay? There are those that are subject to surveillance and they haven't even realized it yet. They would not even know, okay? There's no statute of limitations for the government engaging in that threat to your life. It is currently 5:15 p.m. on April 14, 2024. This is POC.